Yes! Yes! Matthew looked back to his father, his hand extended out towards him. As his eyes finally regained their ocean blue color, my heart began to jump in ecstatic joy. Matthew had broken free from the spell his father trapped him under. Thank God.
How can this be? Impossible!
You expected me to follow your orders, you sick bastard!
Hey!
This war we're deep within. I can't go through it alone, and I won't leave you on your own. I stand before you now and promise you I am not afraid. I will fight and guide the way. We will rise again to glory then, soar into the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe.
Sup guys, the name's Random Dragneel and welcome back to Seduce Me 2, the Demon War. So last where we left off, Matthew was possessed by the Demon Lord, and we broke him free of that spell. And we got to hang out with Faye a little bit, which is pretty cool. Anyways, we've seen most of what happens next, so I'm just gonna skip to the parts we haven't seen. So with that, let's go.
If anything trickles into the side route, you'll be able to handle it. However, there is something I must ask of you.
What is it?
If you are indeed attacked, you need to defend your fiancé the entire way there. Do not let him use his energy.
No way!
When you get to the castle, I will be fighting one-on-one with the Demon Lord. If something should happen to me, then I need you to take over. She is not ready to fight him, and you need to be at full strength to finish him off.
She'll be okay. She's got my magic with her.
Gotcha, Faye. I stared, listening and reaffirming the order. I couldn't lie. I was nervous. However, I was determined enough to see this through. I looked over at my fiancé with a confident smile. I got this. Don't worry. Despite the worried look in his eyes, he nodded and held my hand, trusting me and my decision to agree with Diana's command. Diana rolled her shoulders and looked at the map draped over the wall table between us all. Her gaze pierced into the parchment as the aura around her body pulsated in anger.
I will fly ahead and meet the Demon Lord head on. No matter what happens, I will not allow that monster to live.
The pure determination and anger in her voice practically sent a shiver down my spine. She was set on seeing this through to the end, and I was sure that she was willing to even die if it meant taking the Demon Lord with her. The remaining incubi and the wives were asked to stay behind the army and guard the main base, where Rabbit and Faye were stationed. They needed as many eyes as possible in the back of the battle, so the four couples were perfect to keep things in check. As they agreed, the meeting ended and the mental preparation had begun. The idea of the upcoming battle scared me, sending waves of fear and worry up and down my body in response to the thought.
Man, well, I'm nervous. How about you?
Of course I'm nervous. Yeah. Haha. Matthew wrapped an arm around my waist and turned my body to him, hugging me closely.
Hey, everything will be okay, alright?
I listened to him speak before nodding, taking in a deep breath. Everything would be okay. We would be fine. I had to believe in myself and get us to the castle when the time was right.
Milites! Et hoc liberati isturei tramcun tuis omnibus conversiris. Sto vobiscum reducitic vos ad spem. Nocte, lavabimur arcem, hostium sanguine.
What is she saying?
She said that we're all fighting for freedom and that she'll lead us to it.
Is that it?
Pretty much. Everything else she's saying is just to rile everyone up for battle.
I nodded and stared at the back of Diana's head. A part of me felt a little intimidated and jealous of the power she had. She really could make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. At the same time, I knew that she was doing the right thing for this world.
Ele Dio dominati sunt nostri. Nos destruet, eo mitere, profundissimum, inferni detractos.
Rabbit and Faye stepped forward and held their hands out towards the castle, focusing their energies and forcing the stone walls around it to crumble and dissolve down in the earth. Diana summoned her saber, letting it shine brilliantly as the purple taint over her skin began to twist and turn. Before my eyes, the taint on her back took shape, lifting off of Diana's skin and morphed into a set of demonic wings. I could only stare, jaw dropped, as Diana's body lifted off of the ground and began to fly over the legions, slowly guiding towards the castle.
To war! To battle!
At her final command, Diana's wings pulsated in the air, flapping gracefully as she swooped down and forward. She was charging and flying for the castle walls, saber bared and ready to spill blood. As the armies below began to bellow and march forward, Rabbit took hold of my shoulder and turned me away from the castle to face her.
Come, we must hurry.
He's more determined now. I'm talking about Matthew. Understanding the need for urgency, I nodded and rushed forward with the rest of the incubi towards the slope down the mountainside.
Everything is in order. Sergeant Diana's guard are at the front lines, while Shadow is with his legion to the west.
Are we good with our sneak attack plan?
We've done what we can to keep your way clear. We'll try to make sure the battle won't break through the path.
I nodded, feeling the need to rush Nip at my heels, pushing me forward. My fiancé seemed to agree, gripping my hand and walking at my pace alongside me. However, as we finally arrived at the forest line, Faye and Rabbit stopped, looking back at us.
Straight through here. The sound of the war will always be on your right, so do not get lost. You'll be fine, though. Just follow the tree line.
In sync, my fiancé and I nodded in acknowledgement before turning to see the other brothers and their wives. So, this is it.
Remember your surroundings and protect each other.
Gotcha, James.
Be careful, all right? Make sure you stay safe.
Will do, Iridessa.
Princess, brother, we'll see you in the end.
Okay, Eric. Okay, Eric.
We have faith in you. You'll make it there, and we'll return to the human world soon.
Thanks, Irene.
Kick his dead body a couple times for me, all right? Right in the head.
Gotcha, Sam.
We'll be right here rooting for you and watching your back, okay?
Thanks, Carrie.
We'll win this. We know we can.
Yes, Damien. Yes, Precious.
You can do this. We'll see you soon, okay?
Bye, Twyla. I smiled, despite the nerves running through my body. I held onto my fiancé's hand and gave it a hard squeeze before receiving one back in kind. We'll finish this, then we'll go home. The group nodded before I slowly turned and looked into the tree line, took a breath and rushed forward. Matching my speed, my love followed, weaving through the trees behind me to not lose sight of me. The journey was surprisingly, dare I say it, peaceful? The sound of the war exploded beside us outside of the tree line, causing me to cover my ears a bit from the volume, but I shook my head and pressed forward, not wanting to become distracted. The goal was to get to the castle. I had to focus. As I rushed forward, I felt my instincts go aflutter, causing me to stop and remember that I could fly. My incubus skidded to a halt beside me, looking to me in out-of-breath confusion.
Hey, what's going on?
I looked up at him, staring into his eyes and contemplating my plan. It took a lot of energy out of me, but it was faster than running. Plus, I would be holding him with me, adding on to the weight. I took a moment before mentally hitting the fuck it button. I took a moment before mentally hitting the fuck it button. Fuck it, we're flying. I quickly grabbed my incubus's hand and pulled him close, tightly wrapping an arm around him and shooting a hand down to the ground. Fly! As my voice rang through the air, my feet suddenly were pushed up and off of the ground, pulling my incubus along with me, and causing him to wrap his arms around me in utter surprise and fear of falling. Ah! Sorry, Matthew! Our bodies shot into the air above the trees and let us see the battle raging beside us. I stared in shock as the battle escalated between the two sides, slicing and ripping at each other for territory and ground. Still, the thought of the castle ran through my mind, causing me to shake my head and fly us forward, and the incubus in my arms held me tighter. It was a little cute to think about him holding me like this for once as I guided us through the air. I knew that there were imps still in the forest below, however, so I glared into the trees and pointed a hand out, forming a familiar green orb in my hand and chucking it into the woods. I repeated the action over and over as we continued forward. I could faintly hear the sounds of the imps below becoming caught in my thorns, some even crying out from actually being impacted by one of my orbs and being cocooned by a thorny trap. My incubus, despite probably being surprised at my carnage, ignored the sounds below us and held me close to him, knowing that if he let go, he would fall. I wasn't focused on him at the moment. All I cared about was getting us to the castle. By the time we reached the end of the forest, there were a slew of dead bodies behind us, all entangled in a forest full of thorns and bushes. I landed at the tree line, panting and feeling waves of exhaustion running through my body. I panted for air, slowly focusing on calming down as my energy quickly depleted from its continued usage to keep me in the air. That was all I could do before my energy was expended and a wave of exhaustion rolled through my body. I began to fall forward, exhausted. My fiancé, however, quickly rushed forward and caught me in his arms.
Whoa! Are you alright?
Huh? Yeah, I'm okay, don't worry. I'll be fine. I looked up to see Matthew staring down at me, fear and concern dancing in his eyes. We were safe for the moment, so I merely smiled up at him with a nod. I'm fine. I promised to protect you, like you protect me. Matthew let out a small laugh before pressing his forehead against mine.
What would I ever do without you?
I don't know. I really don't know. Oh, God. I hugged him back, feeling relief that we had finally arrived at the castle and were about to rush inside. As we slowly pulled away, Matthew lifted me up and helped me to my feet.
Come on. You ready?
I nodded, shaking off the exhaustion from my mind. I was ready to end this. I looked up at the castle gates and felt a rush of determination run through me. Let's go finish this. With that, Matthew and I rushed forward into the castle. The final battle had begun. We quickly rushed into the Demon Lord's castle, desperate to get inside and aid Diana in fighting the Demon Lord. As we rushed in, however, we stopped to see Diana and the Demon Lord standing off. Diana had her saber tightly gripped in one hand, while she glared daggers into her opponent. The Demon Lord carried a large smirk on his face as he stood on the dais of his throne. As Matthew and I entered, his smirk grew that much wider. Oh my God! That looks like Matthew's mom! How do I know this? She's blue. She had horns. She's blue! She's blue. Alright. Matthew, however, seemed to care more about the woman kneeling on the ground beside the Demon Lord with her hands on her knees, frowning at him.
Mother!
Told you!
Ah! There he is! My son!
Oh, fuck off. You don't even give two shits about Matthew. Why the fuck do you care about him now?
Get him out of here now!
What? I stared at Diana as she continued to face the Demon Lord. While she was talking about... What was she talking about? The Demon Lord simply laughed and pointed at Matthew.
Well, what are you waiting for? Claim your throne.
He doesn't need to claim his throne. He left it.
What are you talking?
Oh no. At that moment, Matthew's body pulsed with a faint blue light. He hurled over his body and gripped his head, digging his fingers into his hair. Can we tell Matthew's mom to please stop? Because I know the Demon Lord won't stop, but tell Matthew's mom to please stop. This is not right. Stop trying to influence him. Please stop. Matthew? Matthew, what's wrong?
Get him out of here!
I rushed to Matthew, now terrified to what was happening. Before I could place my hands on his shoulders, however, Matthew vanished into a dissipating afterimage. No! Huh? Oh, please. Oh, please, no. The sound of steel clashing caused me to turn and see Matthew and Diana clashing swords. Diana gritted her teeth as Matthew glared into her gaze. Matthew, why?
Damn it, fool!
No, this is not Matthew to blame. No. Blame his mom.
I said, take your throne!
Matthew's body pulsed again, forcing him to push against Diana and send her flying back to stand beside me. As Diana reached me, she moved a hand in front of me, blocking me from Matthew. Matthew! Matthew looked up at me and Diana, his expression twitching from trying to maintain control of himself. His eyes flickered between blue and gold as he gripped to his sword tightly. I wasn't afraid of him, so I stepped out from behind Diana and walked towards him, holding my hands out. Matthew, it's okay. You can overcome this.
Stay back.
I ignored him and continued to walk forward, needing him to be okay. Whatever spell the Demon Lord had on him wasn't powerful enough to consume him. I needed to break its entire hold on him once and for all. Fight it, Matthew. You're strong enough to beat this. Matthew dropped his sword and gripped his head, digging fingers into his hair and curling over himself. He scratched his nails over his horns, angry and aggravated.
I don't want to hurt you.
You won't, Matthew. I know you won't. At last, I stopped in front of Matthew's body. I gently tilted his head up and cupped his face in both of my hands. His face was warm from the mental struggle as his eyes flickered between blue and gold. I trusted him, though. Matthew loved me, and his love would crash through this spell. Well, yeah. Let me help you. I quickly leaned in and kissed Matthew's head, making him gasp and freeze within my arms. I felt myself slowly drain of my remaining energy, but I didn't care. Matthew needed it more than me, and if I was able to free him, then I would. The air around us became lighter and easier to breathe, even as we separated. I stared into Matthew's eyes, seeing him stare wide-eyed at me in shock. They were completed, painted in gold, causing my heart to tighten for a moment. Did he break it?
Enough of this! Kill her!
As the Demon Lord's voice reverberated in the air, a large sword embedded itself into the Demon Lord's stomach. Yes!
What the?
Yes! Yes! Matthew looked back to his father, his hand extended out towards him. As his eyes finally regained their ocean blue color, my heart began to jump in ecstatic joy. Matthew had broken free from the spell his father trapped him under. Thank God.
How can this be? Impossible!
You expected me to follow your orders, you sick bastard!
Hey! I stared wide-eyed as Matthew turned around and summoned a new weapon into his fist. A dark blue aura emanated from his body, flickering like flames as he stared at the Demon Lord down.
You will never convince me to kill the ones that I love.
Insolent brat!
The Demon Lord gritted his teeth before sharply extending his hand towards Matthew's mother. We could only watch as red ethereal chains shot out from the Demon Lord's back towards Azura, wrapping her around her form and crushing her. Wow. Azura was the girl in the beginning.
No!
Stop it!
Your energy, woman!
Faster than we could react, red lightning began to surround and shock Azura's bound form. The red energy traveled through the chains, holding her hostage and into the Demon Lord's body, making him glow a terrifying blood color. A large sword formed in the Demon Lord's hand, arcing with red lightning. I feel like I can't read, but anyways. Matthew's first sword, which was impaled in the Demon Lord's stomach, crumbled into ash and fell to the floor, leaving a black scar mark. The Demon Lord's eyes, however, fixed themselves on Matthew's form with deadly intent.
I'll kill you!
Faster than I had thought imaginable, Matthew stepped forward and vanished, only to reappear in front of the Demon Lord with his sword held high. As Matthew swung his weapon down, however, the Demon Lord held out his hand and forced Matthew back with a burst of red energy. Matthew skidded backwards, crossing his sword over his body to shield himself from the blast. As the energy faded, the Demon Lord's lips curled into a crazed smirk.
Then come, little boy! Show me what you can...
The Demon Lord stopped, staring at Matthew as his body froze. I hitched my breath. What was happening?
Enough.
Everyone turned their heads towards Matthew's mother, seeing her hold the chain that connected her and the demon lord in a tight grip. Her body was shaking, but the rage in her eyes could make any demon fall to their knees.
I will not let you hurt my son!
Yes. Before the demon lord could turn and do something, a large bolt of blue energy shot through the chain and into the demon lord's back, causing him to arch back and scream in pain. Yes! Thank you, Azura. Matthew grabbed onto me and covered me with his body as Diana blocked her face with her arms. The magic was so powerful, the room began to shake violently. I watched from the cracks of Matthew's arms as dark black and red energy traveled down the chain from the demon lord into Azura's body, making her body pulse and grow in power. The demon lord, however, became weaker and surprisingly became much more frail.
You are my...
I am not yours any longer!
Another heavy blue bolt rushed through the chain and into the demon lord's body, causing a splash of blood to jet from the demon lord's mouth. Matthew finally stepped away from me and began to walk at the demon lord, forming a sword in his hand. As he did, the demon lord collapsed onto the floor on his hands and knees and growled animalistically at his son.
It's over.
What surprised me was the smirk that graced the demon lord's bleeding lips and the chuckle that erupted from it.
You are indeed the perfect son.
I don't know why I said that, but thank God he's gone. Without another word, Matthew raised his sword and rammed it into the demon lord's neck, effectively pinning him to the ground and killing him. A bubbled cry of pain barely escaped the demon lord's mouth as his eyes glazed over. Dead. My heart felt major relief, shaking a bit as a weight lifted off of my soul. The demon lord was dead at last. I was free and we could go home now. Diana spat to the side, catching my attention.
To think his own wife and son would be the ones to kill him. What have I been doing for the past 10 years?
Aw, don't beat yourself up, Diana. You're fine. I couldn't stop the amused smile on my face as Diana walked up beside me, rubbing her neck in irritation. You weakened him a bit for them, I'm sure. Diana rolled her eyes as Matthew finally rushed up the dais towards his mother.
Mother!
Zakeru!
Lovely mother and son reunion. I can't. Aw. Matthew's mommy's little boy. And I'm just like, this is adorable. His mother wrapped her arms around Matthew, squeezing him to her. Matthew hugged her back just as tightly and kind, joyous to see her freed from the demon lord's power.
I'm right here. It's gonna be okay.
I was beyond happy for Matthew. His mother was safe now and the demon lord was defeated. I could feel some sort of weight lift off my shoulders, knowing that the curse had been broken with his death. I smiled as I watched Azura cry in Matthew's arms. Before I could step forward to join them, however, Diana placed her hand in front of me, glaring ahead of her. I looked up at her with a very surprised face. Diana?
Stay back.
Let them have their moment. Let's listen to Diana. Let them have their moment. I nodded, unsure of why she wanted me to stay away. However, the intense expression on her face sent fearful chills down my spine as she scowled at Matthew at his mother. Was something seriously wrong? I turned my head back to the pair, watching and wondering what was going on.
My sweet Zakeru, you're finally home.
Of course I am. I had to save you, right?
This is going a little too well. But still! Azura smiled and kissed Matthew's forehead, slowly rising to her feet with him. As she fully stood, something in the air changed. No! The room became a little more peaceful and bright as Matthew turned towards me and Diana. Oh, I thought it was something bad for a moment.
I guess I can finally introduce you to my fiancée. She helped in saving you.
Yay! Azura smiled very softly and looked at Diana, passing over me. What? I felt a little angry at being ignored, but I understood. She wouldn't expect a human to be his future wife.
The princess of Lilith's kingdom is your intended?
No. Please don't get upset. Please don't get upset. Please don't get upset. Please.
What? No. Not her.
Before Matthew could step towards me, however, Azura's face delicately scrunched up at the side of me. What the? Please don't hurt me. Please don't.
Why is a human here?
Oh, Jesus. Things went from awesome to... just went to shit. Everything just turned to shit.
Huh? Mom, that's my fiance.
The atmosphere suddenly changed again. Fuck! The air became colder and something wasn't right. Oh my god. Something in Azura's eyes changed too, becoming hard and vicious.
A human?
Please. Please stop. Please stop.
Yeah?
I love how he's just like, yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a human, Mom, but yeah, it's a human, alright. Azura locked eyes with me, and I suddenly gasped and became lost in my mind, detached from my body. I couldn't move anything or speak a single word, and her eyes remained their icy blue color. What was happening?
Human. Who are you?
Oh dear. I don't. Gotta do it. I'm no one. I'm an army slut, used for energy and sex. Why? I hate you, Azura, for doing that. What? Matthew stared at me, completely shocked at what I had said. I, however, could only stare at Azura, whose gaze continued to burn into mine.
You are not expecting to be with my son, correct?
Oh my god, please. No, don't make me say no. A human like me is not worthy. Instantly, my mind was my own again, and I released a gasp of surprise. Thank you, Diana! I collapsed into Diana's arms as she reached out to catch me. Azura looked to Diana, offense clearly written across her features.
How dare you!
Matthew, get away from her!
What is going on?
Oh, no! I feel so bad for Matthew because he was just trying to get with his mom, and then his mom just had this hatred towards me, and then he's just like, what the fuck is going on here? I looked up and watched as Azura glared at her own son and placed her hand on his chest. Her hand was engulfed in a dark blue glow that spread to the taint on Matthew's skin. Some sort of invisible force pulled Matthew back and slammed his body into the Demon Lord's throat. No! Matthew! Matthew! Oh, come on! As his body came to rest against it, blue chains wrapped around the throne in Matthew's body. The chains began to glow and tighten around him, locking him in place. No! He's not fit to be the Demon Lord now. He doesn't want to be.
Filthy human bitch! You don't belong in this world, and you will never have my son!
I am officially offended. Wow. Okay.
Mother, what are you...
Your mother's not here anymore, Matthew.
What?
She's been connected to the Demon Lord for too long. She's gone mad.
I can totally see that happening. I mean, who would go crazy around the Demon Lord? To be honest.
Mad? I am speaking truth! The king of the demon world has no need for a disgusting human!
He doesn't want to be king of the demon world!
What?
He's just like, what? I did not plan this to happen! I don't want to be it! Let me out! King of the demon world?
I'm afraid you are mistaken.
How am I mistaken? The Demon Lord is dead, so his son must take the throne!
The Demon Lord is dead. The rebellion has usurped the throne. Your son no longer has claim to it.
The rebellion merely paved the way for the true king to ascend to the throne. My son was always destined to take it, and your little siege helped him achieve his fate!
Wow.
Mother, stop!
Enough, Sekeru!
The chains around Matthew's body tightened, and he winced and choked out a gasp of pain. I instinctively reached out and tried to move towards him, but Diana held me back, protecting me still. Azura looked to him with a sad expression, tears almost filling her eyes.
When you left, I was so alone. I didn't understand. I always asked, why? Why did my own son leave me here? You broke my heart. But then I realized it was part of your destiny.
So in the first game, Diana was half right, I guess? Because she tried to use Matthew's mother against him to try and bring him back to the demon world so that her kingdom would be safe. She was saying that his mom was crying and stuff since he left because she was sad and stuff. And look at that. She was actually speaking the truth. Half truth. Because she's like not realizing shit, even though it's not intended.
Mother?
You were merely preparing to take the throne. You needed to experience the human world before returning and taking your rightful place when the time was right. That's why you joined the rebellion.
That was not intended, no. It was because I was trapped here and he came to save me. Okay?
No, that's not true. I came because the Demon Lord cursed.
Listen to yourself. You are a demon, Seduce. You are the son of the Demon Lord, destined for greatness. Why are you fighting this?
Because he doesn't want to be the Demon King. Okay? Matthew pulled and struggled against the chains he was trapped under, no longer answering his mother. Azura, however, turned to me and Diana, rage dancing within her eyes.
You poisoned his mind. You enslaved my son!
No, I haven't. It was his choice to go to the human world. It was his choice to fall in love with me. Everything was his choice. I merely paved the way for it, not intending for this to happen. What? It wasn't true. I loved him and he loved me. Well, there's that too. This wasn't supposed to happen. Why was Matthew's mother doing this? Was she truly insane? Diana placed an arm on my shoulder, causing me to look up at her.
Don't bother listening to her. Her mind has been consumed by madness.
And you, Princess of Lilith! You dare oppose this kingdom? You swore your allegiance to the heir of the Demon Lord, yet you march here with an army bent on destroying the kingdom that you had pledged yourself to!
The Demon Lord broke his promise and murdered my family while I was in the human world doing his dirty work. My vow changed accordingly, and I swore that I would see his kingdom fall. A whipped woman like you would never understand.
Whipped? I merely waited for the chance to kill him so that my son could take his rightful place. Let's not forget that I was the one to strike the final blow on the bastard!
I am warning you now. Stand down.
Oh, snap. The room became filled with a dark energy as Azura glared hard at Diana, her eyes glowing a deadly gold color. However, Diana seemed to be unaffected by her gaze, returning the venomous look with a cold, red-eyed stare.
Such arrogance! You truly think you can stand against me?
If it means finishing the job and freeing the world from madness, then yes.
Azura snarled before a blue aura enveloped her form. Her eyes began to flicker between her natural eye color to gold as the room adopted an eerie chill.
Then, allow me to clear the field of useless trash!
Ah! What I didn't expect was Azura shooting a blue and black chain at me, a large blade jutting out at the end, intent on running me through. Before I could scream, however, I was pushed back and fell onto the ground, the air in my lungs rushing out and leaving me breathless. Ack! As I managed to look up, I saw Diana standing in front of me, wings splayed out wide behind her, twitching in furious rage. The chain in question had been knocked away and vanished into the air.
I won't let you touch her.
Has the human world tainted you too? You're defending a human! Yet you claim that I am the one who is mad!
Stop it!
Quiet!
Wow! With a violent wave of her arm, Azura cast some sort of black mist over Matthew's mouth. As if it took physical shape, a large blue steel mass in the shape of a bird's beak formed over Matthew's nose and mouth, completely covering the lower half of his face.
This is for you, Seduce. Let me finally give you the world you deserve.
Azura looked back to Diana, rage fueling her glare and the cold golden color over her irises.
I will warn you now, Queen of the Rebellion, you stand against a pure-blooded succubus. Do not think you have any advantage over me. In fact, I I am stronger than you can ever hope to be!
Okay, so remember when I told you, I think it was in Damien's route for the Seduce Me 2, that they said that she's the only pure, that Diana was the only pure-blooded succubus, and I was like, ha ha ha, yeah, let's just wait and think. Well, there she is. Azura's the other pure-blooded succubus, who is also descended from Lilith. Another pure-blooded succubus? I knew who Diana was, but I thought she was the only one. How could there have been another? Ooh, Diana's quiet chuckle, however, broke me from my thoughts.
I recognize the strong scent of lilies. At least this fight will be interesting.
Ooh, a pure-blooded succubus against a pure-blooded succubus. Both born from Princess of Lilith. Oh my god, this will be interesting. Something in Diana's voice changed, shooting shivers down my spine. I recognized her tone of voice. The cruel Diana was back. However, Diana's hand reached to me. What was she doing?
Human, give me some of your energy. I don't need much to defeat this woman.
I'm gonna do it. Give her the energy. I didn't want this to happen, but Diana needed to fight her. Azura had already enthralled me once, and I knew I was no match for her. I took Diana's hand, feeling her quickly drain some energy from my body. The chains around her form began to pulse and glow slightly at the new energy in her body, but Diana didn't hold on for long. Diana pulled back her hand and began to chant quietly, waving her hand in the air by her head.
Enough talk! Die!
Oh shit. At the sound of Azura's words, a volley of chains rushed out from behind her body and shot themselves toward Diana. Before they could reach her, however, Diana formed a familiar saber in her hand, parrying all of them, knocking them away from her. As they fell, the suddenly lifeless chains vanished into the ground, making Azura growl.
You're too slow. All of those years under the Demon Lord's body must have taken a toll on you.
You insolent bitch!
Diana suddenly shot herself into the air and swooped towards the other succubus, raising her saber and swinging to decapitate Azura. However, all Diana hit was a suddenly vanishing afterimage.
What?
Before my eyes, Azura appeared behind Diana, floating in midair with a large chain ready to slam down on Diana's head. Diana! Diana quickly dodged to the side, knowing what my scream meant. However, the chain slammed itself onto Diana's left wing, causing her to dip and fall to the ground. Her body bounced off the marble surface and she landed on her stomach, knocking the wind out of her.
Ah! A succubus relying on wings? A bit old-fashioned. You really are from Lilith's bloodline to still depend on that method!
Diana snarled and looked up at Azura, gripping her injured wing. It looked broken, twitching in pain under Diana's fingers. However, the wing quickly reshaped itself and folded properly, as if it had never been broken in the first place. Diana smirked as Azura stared in shock.
It may be old-fashioned, but I make it work.
Ooh, she got you. With that quip, Diana flew at Azura again, her wings flapping as she sailed through the air for an accelerated boost. Oh shit. Azura glared before dispelling her chain and flying at Diana in return, meeting her halfway. Both of the women began to brawl and swipe at each other in the air, exchanging kicks and punches and either blocking each other's strikes or dodging them. I, however, looked to Matthew. He was still struggling against the chains around him, pulling roughly one way then another to try and find some leeway. His hands were bound to the armrests, leaving him no chance to use his powers to summon anything. Rescue Matthew it is! I couldn't just lay there. I had to do something. I quickly jumped up and ran towards Matthew, needing to help him. However, a large barrier forced me back onto the floor. Was Azura holding me back? It wasn't fair! Matthew! Diana and Azura finally shot away from each other, Diana landing near me and Azura landing beside Matthew.
Enough fooling around! You'll never outmatch me! Just surrender!
Crowing like a proud bird won't convince me of your strength. If you claim to be stronger than me,
Then prove it!
Once more, Diana charged at Azura, zipping through the air like a bullet. Oh shit. From the shadows around Diana, lines of blue chains shot forth and reached for Diana's body.
What? No!
No! The chains quickly wrapped themselves around Diana's arms, legs, and encircled her neck and waist, squeezing her tightly. A choked garble managed to escape Diana's throat as the chains began to pull her limbs in opposite directions. No, Diana! My mind flashed back to the nightmare I had before. I had before I arrived. Diana was changed in the air in the shape of a star, being pulled apart. However, this time, it was Azura who was pulling the chains. Azura laughed hysterically as she looked up at Diana's body, seeing the result of her sneak attack.
Such a shame, Princess of Lilith. Do you not like that? I thought you wanted me to prove my strength.
No.
What a pitiful sight you are. Is that the best you can do, Princess of Lilith?
With the snap of Azura's fingers, blue bolts of lightning ran down the chains and shot into Diana's form, causing her to release a heavy garbled scream into the air. Oh no. Diana, no! I had to think of something quick. I needed to save Matthew and Diana, but were both possible, especially with a barrier in the way? My mind instantly thought of Seto. He had holy magic, so maybe he had the ability to break the barrier. However, what about Matthew? What if Azura did something else to him while Seto saved Diana? Then I remembered I could summon Matthew to me using his real name. What if it helped him escape his bonds? There wasn't enough time to decide. I shouted at last, calling out the first name to come into my mind. Well, Azura is Matthew's mom, and she hasn't harmed him in any way, so I think he'll be fine. As much as I want to save him. But Diana too. I gotta help Diana. Just give me a moment. Settle! Diana was in danger, and Matthew wasn't. I knew that his mother wouldn't hurt him, so I had to get Diana out of her predicament first. Yes! As Seto's name reverberated from my lips, a bright light flashed through the room, causing Azura to cover her eyes and making me and Matthew turn our heads.
What?
Yes! As quickly as it came, the light vanished, revealing Seto holding Diana close to his body as she barely managed to stay afloat with her magic. The chains had been broken and were slowly fading away as Seto glared intensely at Azura. She stared back in shock at Wow, I can't read. She stared back in shock at who she saw.
What is this?
Seto.
The guard didn't reply, only intent on holding on to Diana and doing something with his spear, which he grasped in a white-knuckled grip. His body seemed to glow a white color that spread to gently engulf Diana's body in his hold.
You dare lay your hands on my queen?
Ooh! He said my queen. Oh, that's nice. That's so nice. Too bad I couldn't bring them together here. At least I did it last time with Damien. As Seto raised his spear up like a javelin, Azura stepped back in fear. The weapon began to emit a dangerous golden color in his grasp, its aura flickering through the air.
Periat Celesti Bestia!
Oh shit. With a strong throw, Seto shot his spear at Azura, and she protectively brought her arms in front of her and formed a blue barrier around her body. The spear's blade slammed into the barrier and continued to push against it, trying to reach its target. The barrier was cracking as the spear attempted to pierce through it, but the cracks would seal themselves together as soon as they appeared. Azura struggled to keep it from piercing through the barrier around her. Diana, barely hanging on to Seto, guided them both back towards me, landing safely on the ground next to me before Diana almost collapsed.
Isaiah?
I'm fine.
However, Diana's eyes rolled into the back of her head, and forward she fell into Seto's arms. He tightened his hold on her, hugging her form to him as his eyes began to fill with panic. Diana was out of the count for now. What? Wow. Whoa. Diana was out for the count now. Ooh. The sound of a heavy clatter echoed through the chamber as Seto's spear was finally knocked away and fell to the ground, no longer glowing. Azura, however, seemed worn out from spending so much energy to defend against Seto's weapon, and the barrier around her faded away.
How does a demon have holy magic?
Do not question the demon. Just accept it. I couldn't believe it. The spear was emitting holy magic? No shit, Sherlock. Then how was Azura able to block it and push it away? Because she's strong? The light in Azura's eyes faded as she snarled at Seto before she moved her hands in front of her body again and shot out a large blue orb wrapped in black chains towards him. It cut through the air with bullets-like speed, slamming into Seto's and Diana's bodies before Seto had the chance to look up. No! They both flew backwards and slammed into the far wall, landing on the ground beside each other with a painful sounding pair of thuds. Seto! Diana! I looked back at Azura, both furious and fearful of her. Azura then sneered at me, stepping down from the throne dais to walk slowly towards me. I felt my body freeze up at her gaze. She was enthralling me again. I fought back with my willpower, trying to deny any control over my form. But I remained as still as a statue, only able to breathe.
You waste of space! Do you really think you can just claim my son? He is about to serve a higher purpose and you are in his way! Don't you see that?
Jesus Christ. I gritted my teeth, fighting back harder. I could feel waves of energy rush through me, ordering me to obey her mental commands, but I refused to acknowledge them. I wasn't going to give in to her.
All you are good for is being chained to a bed and milked of your energy like a good little harem girl. So much more energy would be able to sustain him for decades!
Oh my god. Can you not? Do you see how that worked out for Damien's mom? Jesus, I don't know how I want to end up like her. No. 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 I stared wide-eyed at her, feeling her energy surge in my body and seeing her smirk grow with each step she took towards me. Her eyes were glistening with sadistic rage.
Maybe that's what we'll do with you. You can be my son's favorite plaything. He'll always have a source of energy and will become powerful enough to completely rule over this world with an iron fist, while you get to live. Would you like that?
No. 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 Have you seen my nightmares with Matthew? He is too fucking sadistic for me. He can't be like that. He's a cinnamon roll. I am not okay with this. My mind began to flash back to the nightmare I had of Matthew staring at me with a cold, sadistic gaze and smile. I had to fight myself from shuddering as I battled against Azura's hold. Matthew will never listen to you.
Won't he? I've been draining him of his willpower this whole time. He won't be able to disobey me anymore.
No, no. My heart stopped and I could feel Azura's hold take over as my spike of fear lowered my resolve. She was doing what? My eyes darted over to the throne, terror clutching at my heart. He was going to obey her? I looked to Matthew to see the chains disappear from his body as he slowly stood, his head down with his bangs shielding his eyes. Oh, that anime-style shade where the hair covers your eyes. You don't see their eyes and they're in that badass mode shit. I became wide-eyed as he slowly descended the dais and began to walk towards his mother in a zombie-like fashion. Azura looked over her shoulder at her son and chuckled before turning back to me.
Now, be a good boy and chain this...
Oh, what happened? Whoa! My voice caught in my throat as I witnessed the blade ramming through Azura's chest, making her gasp and tremble in shock. From behind her, Matthew lifted his head to reveal his tear-stained eyes. As he held onto the blade that he had impaled his mother on with a shaky grip, Azura turned her head to try and look at him. Matthew!
What?
I'm sorry, but I love her.
My heart swelled in both love but despair. This wasn't fair to him, but it was between her or me, and Matthew made his choice.
Sakadu!
Goodbye, Mother.
No! Without another word, Matthew pulled the blade out from Azura's body and swung it around his head. cutting a large gash into her back and forcing her down onto the ground. My body became my own again as I crawled back from her falling body. Azura hit the ground and quickly went limp, lifeless at last. Matthew, however, gripped to his blade and stared at what he had done, both in pain and in shame. No, Matthew. Oh my God, you need hugs. I need to give you hugs. I need to physically give you hugs. Oh my God. Michaela, why would you do this? Why? I am going to cry. Michaela, why? Oh my God. My heart began to cry for Matthew. He had struck down his own mother, one whom he loved with every part of his being. This undoubtedly impacted him hard, and I could never know what ran through his mind. I slowly stood and walked over, standing before Matthew as he dropped his blade and averted his gaze to the side. Matthew. I slowly raised my arms to offer a hug, and instantly, Matthew pulled me to him and pressed my body against his, burying his face into my shoulder. I could tell he was fighting back tears, but couldn't stop himself from letting some go, pressing his forehead against my neck. All I could do was hold him and hug him with the same amount of force. It's over now. It's over. I gently ran my fingers through Matthew's hair, trying to calm him down. Eventually, he let his sadness out, making us both collapse onto the floor on our knees, gripping to each other tightly. His fingers dug into my shirt, pressing me even harder against his chest as he wept against my shoulder. I, however, was silent, trying to take everything in. The demon lord was dead, and so was Matthew's mother. The war had essentially been won. As a soft rustle caught me and Matthew off guard, we turned to see Seto and Diana leaning against the far wall, slowly rising and leaning on each other to remain on their feet.
Well, that was interesting, to say the least.
Matthew didn't speak a word as he looked away from Diana. Seto guided Diana over with a protective arm around her waist as she looked down at us.
Matthew, I'm sorry for what you had to do.
Aww.
I know.
However, you saved the woman you loved.
Matthew slowly turned to look at me in the eyes as I did him. His face was stricken with tears, but his expression became one of slow acceptance.
She has been your rock ever since you met her. If you had let your mother control you, I would have killed both you and her.
Oh man! Thank God. Thank God he didn't let her take him over. As harsh as her words were, I could understand why she said them. Matthew and I stared into each other's eyes as we took in what Diana said. She was right. I loved him, and he was happy to have him alive and in my arms. That was all that mattered. I smiled and took his head into my hands, leaning in and pressing my forehead against his. We're alive, and we can go home now. Matthew slowly grinned and nodded, cupping my head in his hands as well.
Yeah. We can go home now.
A loving laugh bounced between us as we finally let everything sink in. We were together, alive, and in love. We had won, and we were going to return to the human world and be together for the rest of our lives. I barely noticed the gagging noise Diana made behind us.
Sarah, take me away from this. I'm feeling nauseous just looking at them.
Come on. You love Seto. You would do the same thing to him. I know you would. Seto, however, chuckled and guided Diana out of the room, waving his hand over the air before exiting completely. As I looked around, the room became vacant of any damage or death. There were no bodies or any trace of blood. Matthew and I were alone to hold each other and wait until the horns sounded for the war to be officially over. Matthew gently pulled me close and rested my head on his chest, resting his chin on the top of my hair.
I love you.
I couldn't fight the smile that painted itself over my cheeks as I nuzzled close to Matthew, relaxing at last. I love you too. It was over. The war was finally over. Woo!
Well, you did it! Congratulations! You've made it to the end of your story. I have to say, I am very surprised at how it turned out.
Thank you, Kay. We did it! Woo!
Nevertheless, I'm glad things worked out in the end, whether it was for the better or otherwise. I never imagined that Matthew's own mother would go crazy and turn on him. At least the Demon Lord got what he had coming to him.
See, I wasn't expecting that. When I first played through that, I wasn't expecting it either. I was like, okay, happy mother and son reunion. I was so happy, you had no idea. I was practically like squealing. I was alone in the house and I was like squealing and jumping up and down and stuff because Matthew reunited with his mother, and I know how that feels to be reunited with the one that took care of you all these years. And I'm just like, it's so adorable. But then when she turned evil against us, I was just like, are you kidding me? Why would you do that? And then Matthew had to kill her on top of that. That just broke my heart. I broke into tears. Oh my god, that was the worst. When I first played that, it was the worst. I just broke into tears after that. Oh, let's just go on.
Anyway, Matthew's completely free now, and you got to return to the human world in the end. Anyways, you've been through a lot, so why don't we skip to... Huh? You want to know what happened after the war?
Oh.
After the war was finished, the entire rebellion celebrated. Word spread far and wide about the rebellion's success, and soon every kingdom in the abyssal plains had become united with the new authority.
It's kind of the same thing.
You would think demons would be the entire world united under one banner, the Lilith Crest. Diana became the sovereign. Sero, as devoted as ever, remained by her side as her loyal bodyguard.
No! They were supposed to get married and have incubabies! Why? I really wanted to help Seto get together with Diana, but we gotta explore each trainer. That's what I plan on doing.
Diana became one of the other rebel leaders.
I'm
Diana
just gonna
had her
skip.
And I believe that is Matthew and you went back to the human world and had a peaceful night in your bed before moving on and getting married.
Yay!
Huh? How do I know? Well, I have my ways. Maybe you should check it out.
I will. The wedding day, which was rescheduled without issue, became as perfect as I imagined it to be. The ceremony was perfect and the reception was filled with food, cake, streamers, and everything a perfect party should have. Our night became filled with both excitement, fun dancing, and a feeling of perfection at the realization of everything hit me. I was at last married to the man of my dreams. I could go on and on about the wedding and the honeymoon, but honestly, after the war, I was more concerned of living my life afterwards. Our lives exploded with possibilities after we officially became husband and wife. Matthew helped escalate the Anderson Toys Company to new heights with his brother and became a head designer for toys. Nice. He began to pump out idea after idea, becoming a master toy maker like my grandfather was. As for me, I began to go through my own success in life, dedicating myself to become exactly what I wanted to be. After all, my husband was being a master toy designer. If I had put the same amount of work in as I did in the demon world, then I was going to be okay. However, there was never a day that went by that I didn't think about what was happening in the abyssal plains. It was a heavy chapter of my life, one that tested the love between me and Matthew. The memories of our final fight with the Demon Lord and Azura still haunted me slightly, but it only showed how passionate Matthew was with keeping me safe and remaining as my own. I was blessed to have him as mine, and after everything we went through. Still, I was confident that we would get through it and stay together no matter what came our way. Demon, devil, whatever, it didn't matter to us. We were unstoppable together. A moment to myself was all it took to remember everything that went on during my time in the abyssal plains. It was a heavy part of my life and chapter I would never forget for as long as I lived. Still, there were some fun moments while others only proved to me how strong I was and how strong the love me and Matthew had was. It was a blessing in disguise. I sat at the dining room table, looking over the multiple photos that were taken from our wedding. There were so many goofy smiles, embraces, and tear-jerking moments that spanned through every picture. I felt myself grinning at the sight of each one, remembering vividly each moment as it was shot and captured in nostalgic euphoria. I almost wanted to go back in time and relive it all over again just to feel the emotions run through me once again the first time through. What do you think, Simon? I looked at my furry friend, pointing at an image that managed to catch him jumping for the bridal garter in a surprisingly human form. See, remember that moment? That small moment that I showed you with Simon being turned into a human by Diana? Yup, that was it. That was what I had to show you. How he managed to learn that, I would never know. But I was excited to have him. I was excited to have had him as a guest instead of just my lucky charm. Aww. Simon wobbled over from his spot, looking at the image, and gave me a silly grin. It still looked a little evil, but I had begun to recognize which of his smiles were actually filled with ill intent and which were genuine. I giggled and slid over to him, picking it up off of the table and handing it to him, and watching him sit back on his fluffy tail, looking at it in awe. Oh, whoops, let me go back. I guess pictures were still a wonder to Simon. Alright then, since they didn't move. Shaking my head, I began to slowly pile the rest of the images together, eager to store them away for the future and frame some up just for the sake of the memories. As I did, Matthew walked into the room, hands behind his back with a smile. Oh, hey Matthew.
Hey, what you doing?
Oh, I was just looking at our wedding photos. I got a bit nostalgic, you know? Matthew nodded and walked over, looking over them over my shoulder. I, however, attempted to be sly, look over his in return to try and glimpse at what he might have been hiding behind his back. To my surprise, there was nothing there, making Matthew smirk and laugh.
Look, I know I have a nice butt, but you don't need to try and sneak a peek at it, okay?
Matthew, come on! Yes, you got a fine ass indeed. But I wasn't looking at that. Or was I? You will never know. You'll never find out. Oh my God, Matthew! I gave Matthew a playful slap on the shoulder as both of us began to laugh wildly at the joke. Matthew was the first to calm down, wrapping an arm around my shoulder and continuing to look at the pictures.
Man, it's been like, what, a couple months since the wedding, right?
Yeah, how time flies. I laid my head on Matthew's shoulder, letting my emotions drift into a state of calm and serenity in his half-embrace. With a chuckle, Matthew lowered his head and kissed the top of my hair before nuzzling it with his cheek.
I still remember it. Oh, I was so nervous saying my vows.
I'm pretty sure you were nervous, because I was probably nervous too. Yep, me too. It was like a dream from long ago. Both of us reveled. I don't know how to pronounce that. Both of us reveled in the memories of us exchanging vows and saying I do to one another. I could feel a rush of happy realization wash over me as I affirmed to myself. Matthew was my husband. Matthew grinned before kissing my temple and standing up straight, placing his hands behind his back once again. When he brought them forward, I was shocked to see him bring around a gift box, beautifully wrapped and tied with a bow. Huh? Matthew, what is this?
Something that I think you and Simon will like.
Ooh, what is it? Simon perked up at the sound of his name as I straightened up in my chair, now beyond curious of what was in the box. As Matthew slowly unwrapped it, I gasped at what popped out of it. Another doll? Wait, hold on. I was. Look at the doll. It looks so cute. Oh, she looks like the perfect soulmate for Simon. Yes. Anyways, I'm gonna say that again. Another doll? Bursting from the now open top was a fluffy doll that looked almost like Simon, but with a bow on its head and a cute curl in its fur. It looked around and hopped onto the table, skittering over to Simon. Aww! Of course, Simon brandished his toy knife, but stopped as the doll came up close and sniffed at him, grinning at him and hopping around him excitedly. A couple of sniffs from Simon caused him to do the same to his new friend, or maybe his new soulmate. Hey, get what I'm saying?
I figured since we're married and stuff, maybe it was time to get Simon a playmate of his own. You know?
Hey, he was thinking the same thing. Thank you, Matthew. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. I smiled as the two furry dolls bounced around each other, now excited for their new company, and stood, walking over to Matthew. He lowered the box and wrapped his arms around me, grinning down at me as I nuzzled my nose to his. You are the absolute best. You know that?
I do my best for you.
Matthew raised his hand and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear before cupping my cheek. I felt his warmth radiate from his hand, causing me to lean into it and smile. I love you, Matthew. I love you so much.
I love you too, more than anything. And I'll always be here with you, working to keep a smile on your face.
I couldn't stop my smile from growing before leaning in and kissing Matthew lovingly, feeling him kiss back with the same amount of love and passion I had. He would always be here with me, and no one would be able to take him away. I would be here, arms wide open for him, and I would fill him with my love for as long as I lived. And that was my perfect happily ever after. And my love for you is endless. Yay! Skip. I can skip that. And that's it! We finished all of Matthew's route in over an hour. I'm glad. That story just it breaks my heart every time I redo it. I swear. Alright, so in the next video, we will be doing Diana. Since one other person voted to do Diana in the poll, I figured, why not do Diana's route next? So, in the next video, I'll start up Diana. Anyways, I got to thank you guys so much for watching this. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my videos, then click subscribe. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next video.